Welcome back to my channel. Today, we unravel one of the darkest and most chilling arcs ever to shake the fashion empire and personal lives of the characters in The Bold and the Beautiful. What began as a hopeful leap into a new career opportunity spiraled into a nightmare of exploitation, deceit, and captivity, ultimately dragging multiple generations of the Logan and Spencer families into a global scandal. Hope Logan, the face of elegance, inspiration, and empowerment, found herself at the center of a horrifying trap, lured away by promises of fashion glory and left abandoned in a world of forced submission, hidden abuse, and illicit corruption. And as the world searched for answers, those who loved her had to risk everything, including their freedom and their sanity, to bring her home. This is the story of how a dream became a prison, and how redemption came from the least expected corners of a tainted past. Hope's journey began with an enticing proposal. A renowned French fashion designer, revered across Europe for his avant-garde genius, approached her with an offer she could hardly resist, to take the Hope for the future brand global. He spoke with such conviction, such admiration for her vision, her compassion, her artistic eye. She was flattered and, more importantly, desperate for something new. After months of emotional turmoil, reeling from the disintegration of her marriage and trying to rebuild her identity apart from the chaos of Thomas and Liam, this felt like her chance at liberation. The designer, known only as Lucien Marchand, invited her to his Paris headquarters to discuss a collaborative collection that would launch across the European market, with her name in lights and her ideals on center stage. She told Brooke she needed this, a fresh start, a new life. She promised she'd return once she had built something lasting. Liam, recently diagnosed with a dangerous brain condition requiring surgery, pleaded with her to stay. But Hope, believing that Steffi would be there to support Liam through his recovery, felt she could leave without guilt. As Hope boarded her flight, no one could have anticipated that it would be the last anyone would hear from her for weeks. Back in Los Angeles, time passed with eerie silence. Brooke sent messages. No reply. Liam attempted calls. Voicemail. The social media updates stopped. No appearances. No interviews. No launch parties. Nothing. When Brooke finally reported that she had lost all contact with Hope, alarm bells rang. Liam, who had been preparing for his high-risk surgery, made a bold and terrifying decision. He would delay the operation and fly to Europe himself. Weak, dizzy, and on the edge of collapse, he knew something was deeply wrong. His instincts screamed that Hope wasn't just avoiding them. She was in danger. What Liam found in Paris was not the glamorous world of haute couture that Hope had envisioned. Her name had vanished from every promotional material associated with Lucien Marchand's brand. The office building where she was supposed to be working was empty, stripped of branding, the phone lines dead. His inquiries were met with cold shoulders and blank stares. Eventually, one frightened former assistant revealed a location on the outskirts of the city where models were sometimes trained in secrecy. Liam made his way there, and what he discovered shattered his heart. Hope was alive, but barely recognizable. Hidden in a shadowy warehouse, she was locked in a stark, windowless room, her once bright eyes dulled by trauma. The French designer had used his charm and prestige to lure her into a secluded compound under the guise of a fashion training facility. Once there, he began forcing her to use designer drugs under the false pretense of creativity enhancement and mood elevation, controlling her behavior and weakening her will. Her resistance was met with threats, isolation, and surveillance. She was coerced into filming seductive and degrading promotional videos for a fake luxury brand, intended to be marketed on the dark web as part of an underground fetish couture operation. The brand used her name and image to peddle forbidden goods to elite buyers, most of whom had no idea the faces they saw were there against their will. Liam, horrified and heartbroken, tried to help her escape. But just as he reached her room, a shadow crept up behind him. A single brutal blow struck the back of his skull, and he collapsed. Unconscious, Liam was dragged into an adjacent room and shackled. Hope, barely able to scream through the haze of sedation, was helpless as her husband was taken from her again. Her world crumbled. Meanwhile, back in Los Angeles, Deacon Sharp received a cryptic message from an old contact, a whisper from the underworld he had once called home. The message was simple: your daughter. Paris. Trouble. Deacon, torn between his desire to live an honest life and the instincts that had once made him a legend in the criminal underground, made a dangerous choice. He contacted a covert syndicate of vigilante operatives known only as Le Coeur Noir, a secret network that operated outside the law to dismantle criminal organizations too powerful or protected to be prosecuted. Deacon offered them something they couldn't resist: full intel on Lucien Marchand's international money laundering operations in exchange for Hope's rescue. But this meant reactivating old contacts, revealing past allegiances, and risking everything he had rebuilt. As Deacon infiltrated the edges of the French fashion scene, he discovered that Lucien's empire extended far beyond Hope. The designer had trafficked multiple victims across Europe and was shielded by corrupt law enforcement, politicians, and even high-profile celebrities. Hope was one of many, but the only one with a family willing to tear down empires to get her back. With Liam still imprisoned and Deacon closing in, Brooke became increasingly unhinged. She demanded the U.S. Embassy take action. She rallied media attention. She called Ridge, Steffi, and even Eric to pull every string they had across Europe. Steffi, worried about Liam's safety and now guilt-ridden for not forcing Hope to stay, took a flight to France to join the search. While there, she and Brooke were forced to work together, old grudges momentarily suspended in the name of saving Hope and Liam. In a daring midnight operation orchestrated by Deacon and Le Coeur Noir, a raid was launched on the compound where Hope and Liam were held. The building was heavily fortified, patrolled by guards masquerading as security personnel. Hope, barely conscious, was dragged toward a filming room just as alarms erupted. Liam, using the last of his strength, broke free of his restraints and fought off one of the captors, giving Deacon and the team the opening they needed. Chaos ensued. Gunfire rang out. Smoke bombs shattered the air. But in the end, Deacon found his daughter curled in a corner, shaking, lost, and terrified. Liam was found unconscious, but alive. The rescue team managed to extract both of them just before backup arrived. By dawn, the compound had been burned to the ground, the criminals scattered into hiding, and Lucien Marchand arrested as he attempted to board a private plane out of Geneva. But the damage had been done. Hope and Liam were safe, but they were not the same. Back in Los Angeles, the aftermath was heavy. Hope struggled with post-traumatic stress, flashbacks, and a deep-seated fear that she had lost control of her identity forever. Liam, now recovering not only from the trauma, but also preparing for his delayed surgery, felt consumed with guilt for letting her go. The surgery loomed, dangerous, uncertain, and Hope refused to leave his side. She slept in a chair by his hospital bed, waiting, hoping, praying. Deacon, hailed by some as a hero, found himself at a crossroads. The exposure of his underworld ties led to renewed scrutiny. Reporters and detectives questioned him about his connections, and Ridge confronted him, accusing him of endangering Hope by dragging her into his old world. But Brooke, who had watched Deacon risk everything to save their daughter, defended him fiercely. As Liam went under the knife, the entire family held their breath. And in the silence of that waiting room, Brooke, Hope, Steffi, Ridge, Deacon, they were reminded that no matter how broken, no matter how divided, they would fight to protect their own. Because in this world, beneath the glitz of fashion and wealth, the love between a parent and child, a husband and wife, was the only thing powerful enough to take on monsters. Hope would heal. Liam would survive. But the scars left behind would remain forever, a reminder that in the bold and the beautiful, even the brightest stars can fall into darkness. And only the boldest hearts can bring them back.